Hey folks, Richard Evans, Paradise Tour Guide here in Las Vegas, Nevada. Beautiful day today. And today I want to talk about adult-only hotels in Las Vegas. There's a small but growing population of hotels that refuse to cater to any children, and it's adults only. Some people like it, some people don't. We're going to talk about the 4 that I know of that are doing an adults-only policy. Let's see how it goes. Now, there's a lot of reasons why hotels are going to an adults-only sort of policy. I will talk a little bit about why and what the effects of that are as we go through the video. I'm going to talk about the 4 that are currently working on an adults-only policy in order that they became adults-only. So here we go with the first one. It is the Oasis at the Gold Spike in the downtown Fremont Street Experience area. Now, the Oasis at Gold Spike is a small place. It's only 112 rooms. It has not only the Oasis at the Gold Spike, but also the Gold Spike, which was originally a hotel and casino. Back in the mid-2010s, it was purchased and put together and was no longer a casino. It was taken over by Tony Hsieh's downtown project and was developed primarily for housing for executives and workers at their Zappos property, which was just a block away. And Tony Hsieh wanted this to turn into a community building for his corporation and ended up expanding it. Well, it's no longer used for corporate housing. The old Gold Spike casino area is now a bar. This outside area, which was kind of a game area for the Zappos people, is still there. It's used very much for a party atmosphere, which is why it's really not too much good for kids anymore, because it's all about beer pong and everything else that you could think of. It's a small, boutique, low-priced place just 1 block off Fremont Street Experience, and it works out really well. By the way, I'd like to mention here on our channel, we talk about all the tips, the tricks, the hacks that will make your trip less expensive and even more memorable, whether it happens to be traveling generally or in Las Vegas specifically. If you like that sort of content and want to see more of it, please subscribe and let us know what type of more information that you want. And meanwhile, let's go to the second on our list, which just happens to be Circa, also in the Fremont Street Experience area. Now, Circa is the newest of all of the different hotels here. It opened just on October 28th, 2020. That was a partial opening. Fully opened December 28th, 2020. It is also the most militantly adults only. Everyone has to come in at one of the 3 entrances, show your ID, everyone. It doesn't matter who you are or how old you happen to be. So if you are old enough that you are thrilled to be carded, this is the place to go to. They are really serious about it. They're really, again, another place that's really into the gambling. They've got this huge 3-story tall sports book with tiered seating, and they also have the 6-tier stadium pool, which has a huge screen. And so everything is about the party, everything's about the booze, and everything is about the sports betting. So hey, no kids allowed. Now, all of these hotels that are doing this adults only are relatively small by Las Vegas circumstances. In fact, the Circa happens to be the largest of the group at 777 rooms, when you consider that most of the hotels on the Strip are thousands of rooms. It makes a situation that it's easier to operate, because these smaller hotels often don't have anything that would be for kids that are going to attract kids. It doesn't really make sense to do a lot of stuff with kids, and they have lots of problems because of the gambling areas. You have to be over 21 or over to be in there. If you're at a bar, if you have an only 21 and over policy, you don't have to worry about your bartenders having to check for ID or anything. It just kind of makes the whole operation a lot easier and a lot fluid. So for the properties, it does make sense. Let's go to the third one. This happens to be, oddly enough, the only one on the Strip that currently is an adult-only situation, and that is the Cromwell. Now, the Cromwell, which is the only property that happens to be on the Strip, is interesting because it reopened just after the closures from the pandemic as an adults only at that time. And that is a completely different approach than what Circa does. As I mentioned before, Circa is very militant as far as checking everybody's ID. Here at the Cromwell, not so much. They are adults only, but all of their entrances are open. There is no guards checking IDs, nothing like that. It's just as you walk through, if you see children or someone who looks at it, they'll be checked, ask for your ID. If they are children, you'll be told it's adults only and asked to leave. It is kind of weird because right by these entrances, they do have this sign that says, "Don't leave your kids unattended," which goes back to when it was before, prior to the shutdown of the pandemic. It's, of course, a very small, high-scale boutique hotel on the Las Vegas Strip. It's high-end, it's hip, and it's some place that the big spenders like to go to. And because of that, Dre's nightclub and all the other things that they have in there, they've decided to go adults only. Again, it's very low key as far as that goes, but if you do have children, you'll be turned away. So there you go. Now, the Cromwell is the only one that is on the Strip, as I mentioned before, and the first three are actually the ones that are currently operating under an adults-only policy. As I filmed this video, there's another one that's coming up in just a few days that say they are going to transition to an adult-only policy, and that is the venerable El Cortez, the longest operating casino in southern Nevada. And it is a kind of an interesting sort of situation, and let's take a look at it. Now, the El Cortez is kind of a question mark because actually it doesn't start its adults-only profile until the start of April, but even then they say they're going to start to transition to an adults-only location at that time, so I'm not really sure exactly what that means. It's less than 400 rooms, but it is spread out over a large amount of time. There's the one tower that they have, but you know, the El Cortez is a very old hotel. It's started in 1941 as a hotel casino back then. In fact, it's the longest ongoing thing. Where you see the white brick, that's actually the original El Cortez there, and everything else is spread out from there. Now, the question is they've got lots and lots of entrances all over the place, so it's kind of curious as far as what kind of approach they're going to take. Are you going to cut down on the number of entrances that they have so that you can only come into a few areas so that you can be ID checked and screened as far as having children or not? Are they simply going to leave it open and just kind of check generally like the Cromwell does? It's just, there's not a lot of detail. The only thing that we do know is they say starting in April they will be adult only, so we'll just have to see what happens as we go forward. Again, I'm Richard Evans, Paradise Tour Guide. I'm a retired history teacher and long-term tour guide here in Las Vegas, Nevada, giving walking tours on the Las Vegas Strip and in the Fremont Street Experience area. If you like this sort of information and this sort of content on my channel, please give me a thumbs up. I'd love to have it. If you don't like it, okay, give me a thumbs down. I can handle it, no problem. That's it for today, guys. Okay, thank you very much for joining me today, and I'll see you next time you're in Las Vegas. Take care.